anything crazy like that. It doesn't mean there's actually a zombie outbreak. It just means they're all sick.
Yeah.
So it tends to flare up, right, and spread. So you can do things like you could do a bang up, for example, and tell all the prisoners to go back to their cells, and that would significantly reduce the amount of outbreak that was happening.
Yeah, but obviously it would annoy everybody. It would increase the temperature of the prison.
It absolutely does, yeah, and you need to work that out.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing to consider, of course, is the doctor suggested quarantine, but that doesn't really exist in a prison.
Yeah.
Right. So what you could typically do is send them to solitary. I mean, sending them to solitary is kind of your only option.
Yeah.
In this particular case, you could send them to one of the categories. Like you could recategorize them as vulnerable prisoners. Yeah. Well, if you recategorize them as the vulnerable prisoner category and then have them all sent to, so you could say like that.
Yeah.
You could say that's the vulnerable prisoner, and then make use of that to transfer all sick prisoners there, so it stays contained.
Can you quarantine them in the medical bay?
They go to the medical bay. So what happens is that some of them will fall unconscious, like this guy, for example.
Yeah.
If they get too sick, and the guards will do their best to transfer them to the medical bay. Now, in the case of this prison, there's only some quite small infirmaries. So it's again, there's an element of forward planning here. Like if you have a huge infirmary and loads of doctors, you can get on top of this before it spreads.
Yeah.
Because they'll get the sick prisoners will be brought to the infirmary and cured, but they'll only be brought to the infirmary when there's a spare bed.
Right.
So if you've only got a tiny infirmary because you're not used to dealing with this, then sick prisoners will just be left to wander around the prison forever. And there's an extreme version of it. So the extreme version, I should mention. There's always like a sort of, I think it's like a 1% chance there'll be an extreme version of the event.
Okay.
And it behaves differently. So the extreme version of the virus has a lethal endpoint whereby a certain fraction of prisoners die from the virus at the end. So it's much more serious that you get on top of it.
Yeah, get on top of it quickly, stop those deaths.
Exactly, because you've got a genuine possibility of mass deaths, and obviously the inevitable, you will be sacked after all those mass deaths.
Right. It's interesting. The idea of an outbreak in a prison is just an interesting concept anyway, isn't it?
Well, and it will spread like wildfire in prisons.
Yeah, of course it will.
Close proximity and all.
That's right, they're all together. I mean, how does it spread? Does it spread with the prisoners just having physical contact with each other?
Close contact, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all location, close contact based. So it's assumed to be airborne, but you have to be close to spread to nearby people. So if you let your infected prisoners just go and hang out in the canteen, you can spread very quickly indeed.
Right.
Because obviously everyone's really close together.
Absolutely.
I have to keep resetting the prison after each one because some of these are so bad. So, water pipe burst.
Right.
There you go. What you get, a water pipe has burst and is flooding the area. Fix it before the damage becomes too severe. So this one's like, not all of them have to be, disasters.
Yeah.
This is quite simple. You've got a water pipe burst. It's going to mess the area up. Right? The condition of the area will be really messy. But it's pretty easy to fix.
Does it stop the kitchen operating?
It doesn't stop the kitchen operating. No, it used to set fire to the electrical stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought.
I took it out because it was just too extreme.
Right.
That a little bit of water would cause fire and things. But you make a valid point. Maybe it should stop this equipment from working because it's flooded.
Yeah, I mean it'd be interesting if the entire kitchen was flooded.
Yeah.
That's it. That would be the point at which the kitchen just stops working.
Yeah, and then you'd have the knock-on effects again, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It can happen anywhere in your piping, basically. Can go, so you never quite know where it's going to happen. Oh, bit of a kerfuffle going on down there.
Knock down.
Stop it. Cease and desist.
Jason the Squirrel Bastard.
One of our face in the games, I think.
I think he probably is.
All right. Should we look at some more?
Yeah,
let's see. Workshop actor. Oh, no one's in the workshop at the moment. I can't do that one. So the workshop, the workshop's always been a safe place.
Yeah.
So every now and then there'll be an accident. That's as simple as that.
Chop my hand off, man.
Yeah, that kind of thing, yeah.
It's because you haven't bought the grids, man. You haven't bought whatever you call it, the guards. I don't know.
Yeah, so they get a new status effect that's in the game now called bleeding.
Right, brilliant.
Which means so they have to be injured and the bleeding, they actually get worse and worse. So it's a little bit of a minor medical emergency when it happens.
Yeah.
You've got to get them to the doctors quick, or they bleed. They won't necessarily bleed to death, but it can get worse. All right, one of my favourite ones: mass assassination.
All right.
So Mass assassination, right? So the identities of a number of witnesses in a federal prosecution case have been leaked, and some of them are inmates in our prison.
Right.
Hits have been taken out on them, but we need them alive. You need to identify the prisoners and keep them in one piece until their court date comes up.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it tells you, right? Federal witness court date. So in 66 hours, there's going to be a major court case involving somebody that we don't know. And there are 10 witnesses to that federal court case in this prison. And they've been marked for death.
Right.
Some sort of mass hit has been called out on them.
Right.
And it will happen at some time in the next 66 hours.
Okay.
That's what we know. So what we need to do is we need to go to our intelligence screen. And you remember our informants.
That's right.
Confidential informants. I've got a cheat code turned on at the moment because I don't actually have any confidential informants.
Right.
But you would need to go to your confidential informants and call them into the office and say, what do you know? Right. Tell me what you know.
Yeah.
And they would reveal your federal witnesses. And so if you look close up on some of these guys, well, those guys are just snitches. But like these guys, federal witness. Right.
Right.
So both these guys are federal witnesses. Now I know that because my informants have told me.
Right.
So what I essentially have to do is get them transferred into protective custody as soon as I can.
Right.
And they'll be safe in protective custody.
Identify them and basically keep them safe.
Yeah. And if you don't, there'll be a proper. At some point, there'll be a mass assassination.
Who does the deed then? Just other prisoners.
Other lethal prisoners.
Right.
So you never know who it's going to be. You know.
Yeah.
It won't be like some guy who's in for tax evasion.
Yeah.
It'll be other violent prisoners, and if you've got a prison that's full of non-violent prisoners, then maybe they'll be safe.
Yeah. Okay.
But you'll be surprised. 65 hours is a long time, you know.
Yes, yeah.
To look after 10 marked men.
It feels like a movie.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful with those guys, you know. And it's a lot of people to be killed, you know. It can really contribute to your game over event.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It would do you in, wouldn't it?
Whew. All right, well, we'll leave that federal witness court date thing running. I'm not actually going to take any further action, so we'll just let that play out.
Right.
There's more. All right.
There's quite a few, aren't there?
There's a few, yeah. Yeah. All right, this is a nice one. I like this one. Mayor Calvin Heller.
The mayor.
An incident at another facility has highlighted potential issues with security checks when it comes to family visitation. Until the processes can be properly reviewed, all visitation must be suspended. You have 6 hours to remove all visitation rooms from your prison.
Right.
Nice. This is analogous to Dwarf Fortress administrator demands.
Right.
Every now and then they'll call you with a demand that has to be met. It says down here, ensure no visitation rooms in the prison until the security review is complete. You don't have to demolish anything.
Right.
But you do have a choice. Right. You don't have to comply.
Right.
If you don't comply, you'll be fined.
Okay.
There'll be a state level fine applied to you. But you can go to the rooms view and actually, I don't actually know where the visitation room is. Here it is. You go to the rooms view and clear out the visitation room like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And that'll put an end to family visitation, right? And then you're in compliance at that point.
Right.
And you won't get fined. But there'll be the knock-on effect.
Yeah.
Right. In the needs list, the family need will no longer be satisfied.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll have to cope with the knock-on effect of that.
For a period, and you don't know how long that period is.
I think it tells you once you pass the threshold of where it's been decided whether you've done it or not.
Right.
And then you have to keep it that way for a day or two until they complete their security review.
Right.
And there are other ones in the same family, like TV removal demand or weights removal. Right? It's another one. The media has started a campaign over the immunities granted to prisoners, and it's bringing a lot of heat on my office. I'm passing a bill which bans exercise equipment in prison yards. So I need you to remove all weights benches from your yards, or you'll be fined. You have 12 hours. Yeah? Pretty good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the thing I like about it is it's just the sort of thing that politicians do.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
They had that whole thing in the UK, didn't they, where the Home Secretary decided that he wanted to remove televisions from prison, right? Because inmates in a particular prison all have televisions. And he said, it's time we were tough on prisoners. These televisions need to be removed immediately. It's not right that these criminals should be allowed to watch Sky TV, throughout the day. Yeah. And all the sort of newspapers, all the sort of rag newspapers were kind of like, yeah, screw the prisoner. And there were these prison guards and staff, weren't there, who were just saying, well, hang on a second. Nobody actually asked us. Because televisions are like the ultimate compliance device.
That's right.
Because we tell inmates that they're going to lose their television if they do anything wrong. and it's like it's more effective than any other scheme we've ever seen. You know, so we see televisions as a form of coercion.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, a form of control that we have over our inmates.
A prison full of televisions is actually a very well controlled prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, with everybody conforming and complying and.
Yeah, because they just fucking love daytime TV, man, and they will just.
Well, there's